I'm Aryeh Schwartz, along with Eli Horowitz, and welcome to the WNBA Insider Show. Each week, we cover various topics in the league, bringing honest and critical analysis. This week, we have an insanely special guest, a two-time WNBA champion, the 2012 Sixth Woman of the Year, and an All-Star, the great, the one, the only, Renee Montgomery. Welcome to the show, Renee.
Wow, you made me sound way better than I felt right now, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I did have to leave out a few of your college accolades, but since the tournament just ended, and you know, typically we specialize, or we do not focus on the NCAA only as it pertains to the W. And so, you know, I know you are a very proud UConn grad. So, kind of, you know, your reactions first of the tournament as a whole.
The tournament as a whole, I would say it was exciting for everyone. Which is good. Of course, you would want to interview me when UConn loses in the Final Four. So, I'm heartbroken. I bleed blue. So, but I do understand that 2-game winners in the Final Four, it's good for basketball.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, do you have a take on what happened? Because I mean, that was a pretty stacked UConn team, and I mean, not like your teams back in the day, but you know, do you have any hot takes on what this team can do to kind of get out of the rut of, I guess, a rut of only the Final Four, if you could call it that?
I mean, it's called March Madness for a reason. You got to expect the unexpected. So I think it's a great team. You can't discredit anything they did all season, even though everyone always looks at how you finish. I get that. But, I mean, I'm still proud. Still great team. And things happen. It's called March Madness for a reason.
I'm going to jump in here. So let's get back to the WNBA, and you were one of the biggest unrestricted free agents this offseason, and obviously made the move from the Lynx to the Atlanta Dream. And before we talk about Atlanta, just for the fans, can you tell us like the process of being an unrestricted free agent? What is that like, and what goes into that, and what was that process like for you?
Yeah, so the process of being unrestricted. I don't necessarily know if I'm just going to break it down. Unrestricted means that you can sign anywhere, just in case fans didn't know. But the process is actually really difficult because there's a situation where you're obviously coming from a team and things that you know and you've experienced. And this is me speaking from personal experience. And then you're choosing to go into the unknown, basically. So it can be kind of a nerve-wracking experience because on the one hand, you know what you're getting with the team you have. And on the other hand, you might be, the grass is greener concept. So, yeah, it's a difficult decision. And especially since we just won the championship, I mean, kind of made mine way more difficult.
Yeah, just from like I guess I'm curious on a process standpoint, if a player of your caliber, I mean, are you getting calls from all 12 teams, or how does it even kind of work logistically?
So logistically, no one's calling me personally. My agent usually contacts me. Hey, this team wants to chat. Are you free? Hey, this coach wants to know, are you even interested? So that's kind of logistically, everything kind of funnels through my agent. And then, you kind of like pick and choose like, the Atlanta team's interested. Yeah, I want to talk. Like, yeah, let's set it up. So that's kind of how it worked for me. As you know, I guess free agency started, I'm just saying hypothetically, on a Monday. And I was signing with Atlanta on like a Wednesday. So I didn't have like sometimes like on the men's side, they milk it for all it's worth. They get the flights, the jets, but I just kind of like, wanted to kind of get it over with and because I was in a season here. So because it's not like I had to just start thinking about free agency as soon as it started. That's something you think about all off season. So I kind of had it in my mind that I wanted to be close to my family.
Yeah, you mentioned how hard it is to leave a championship team. I feel like as a journalist, I do have to ask, Cheryl Reeve is on record saying she expected you back and to re-sign you. And I guess just whatever you're willing to share, kind of how did that, you mentioned it really happened pretty fast as far as signing so quickly. How did that kind of situation unfold?
Yeah, so about that, love the Minnesota organization, the coaches, my teammates. So that's why it was like, I'm sure it was a shock because it was a very difficult situation for me, like a decision for me. I didn't even as like, in the off season, I knew it was coming and I was kind of getting anxiety personally to myself about it. Like, Okay. Because it's basically choosing between business and personal life. The business decision obviously would be to sign back with Minnesota. We just won a championship. It's a great team organization, and nothing against the Atlanta Dream, of course, but I'm just saying those are facts about Minnesota. And personal life would be like coming back east. I'm close to my family now, an hour flight away. So, I'm sure it was a shock to the Minnesota organization, but Coach Nikki, she really I already was wanting to come back east, but the way Coach Nikki approached me and how aggressive she was and her plan and everything, it kind of just confirmed my decision and made me feel really good about choosing Atlanta.
That's interesting. So obviously the family thing, is huge, but I'm curious, when you spoke with Coach Nikki Collin, what was kind of her pitch? Did she even have to give a pitch, or was it purely family, or what did she kind of say to you as to sell Atlanta?
Oh, she's great. So it's crazy because the first time we ever spoke on the phone, I think we was on the phone for an hour and a half. It wasn't even just a 10-minute pitch. Hey, we want you. We were literally on the phone for an hour and a half, and we talked about a lot of things not involving basketball. So it was kind of like a connection there. And, we did get to the basketball talk. And just a side note, the Atlanta team, I do think we have a good nucleus. It's not like I'm choosing to go to a team that's last place or so. I think the Atlanta team has a good nucleus. We expect to, we both want to win, and we both have similar mindsets and things, but she really just envisions my game in her system. So that's, for an athlete, that's very important, because a lot of times you're only as good as your coach allows you to be, or the system you're playing in. So if a coach can really see you in their system and let you have the freedom to do what you want in their system, that affects how you play.
I'm going to hop back in. Atlanta would have been in the lottery pick, right? But they traded away their pick. Obviously they had some issues. They didn't make the playoffs last year, and only 4 teams don't. What do you see your role in kind of fixing these issues on this team?
So that's the thing, Atlanta, they were making a lot of different moves and everything like that. But I think her offseason moves were big. I mean, to bring Jessica Breland in, that's a top quality forward. I mean, she's an all-star forward position. And like I said, the nucleus was already there in I call her Kiera Haze. There's Angel McCautry coming back, Elizabeth Williams, Imani. We have young players in Brittany. There was already a nucleus there. So it's not like we have to do a complete rebuild. So I'm not so concerned about the draft pick or anything of that nature. And just as far as me, I just try to carry myself a certain way with a positive energy. So what I want to bring most to the team is just a positive energy and a focused will to win.
You mentioned Coach, really feeling like you can play your role there. What do you see, I guess, more specifically basketball wise, X's and O's wise? There's a lot of guards on the team, which, like you said, a lot of talent. I expect the team to be a playoff team, just with all, like you mentioned, you, Breland.
Existence. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah. We've been talking on our show of you guys, almost kind of being like Connecticut last year as a team that might go from outside the playoffs to actually being a top 4 or 5 team. There's just a lot of talent. But you've been on a championship team. You know what it takes. And I feel like us as media, we hear kind of it takes hard work, it takes this, but you've been there, you've done that. What is it going to take to assemble all these talented pieces and actually create a winning team?
I think that's going to be, honestly, our biggest task. I honestly think that we have a little bit of everything. We have a shooting floor. We have the bigs. We have guards who can drive. We have guards who can shoot. We have the talent. I mean, we have Clarendon. I didn't mention her in already the nucleus, but there's Clarendon there as well. So, I mean, we have the things you need to win. It's not like we can play a team and I'm like, man, we just didn't have an answer for that. I think our biggest task at hand is going to be putting the pieces, it's like a puzzle and you have to make all the pieces fit. So, I mean, I'm not a coach, so I'm glad Coach Nikki can worry about that. But I do think that that's going to be the most important thing, because if we can make all the pieces fit right and this player is complementing this player, I mean, I do think we have the talent to be good.
And I mean, obviously, you came off the bench in Minnesota and then started when Lindsay Whalen was hurt. Do you care what your role is as far as starting or coming off the bench or minutes? How do you feel about that?
So, when I was younger, I played for Coach Tebow in the Connecticut Sun, and I think it was my second year in the league, I was an all-star. And I started the very next season, my third year in the league, coming off the bench. And boy, oh boy, was it the end of the world to me in my mind. Like, it was like the end of the world. It was crazy. And, because Coach T sat down and talked to me, he's like, our team is really good. We just need something coming off of the bench. I know you were an all-star last season, but, I really think this could be good for our team. I thought it was crazy. But, I'm kind of one of them. I'm like, all right, well, let's just see what happens, So I ended up being Sixth Woman of the Year that year. But it was kind of like I told you, in my mind, I was like, I can't believe I'm not starting, And then halfway through the season, I'm like, okay, this isn't so bad. And then at the end of the year, I got Sixth Woman of the Year, and our team was really good. We ended up getting beat by an Indiana team that was rolling and ended up winning the championship. But at that moment, I think after that season, it kind of opened my eyes to me, because Coach T talked to me, he was telling me, it's not really about who starts the game. It's about who's on the court at the end of the game. And after that season, it kind of opened my eyes to me about, the importance of starting and how not important it is. I'm not saying that, I don't, if I were to start, it's not like I'm going to be, oh, man, I want to come off the bench. But if I do come off the bench, it's not going to be like I'm sitting there mad. I mean, I wouldn't do that anyway. But so I guess in a roundabout way, at this point, I'd rather, if my puzzle piece fits best, me coming off the bench, then that's fine with me too.
And what about position? And it's something we've asked all the players that have come onto our podcast. I'm kind of interested in that because I feel like basketball is becoming more and more positionless. But I'm wondering, as a player, do you take pride of saying I'm a point guard versus a combo guard or a shooting guard? Does that matter to you as a player?
Yeah, I've seen this discussion a lot. I'm a point guard. A lot of times I can play the two guard, but I'm a point guard, and I think being a point guard, saying that, I don't know, it's changing now, especially in the NBA, the term point guard, because it's literally all the two guards are being point guards. But I would say I'm more of a traditional point guard where I set people up and I enjoy making a good pass in that aspect. Of course, I know I have skills that I can shoot and I can score, but I think at my core, yeah, I'm a point guard.
Yeah, I think you're being generous because you have a lot of scoring ability as well and shooting. Now, Atlanta was, last in the league in 3-point percentage last year. I know Coach Collin has talked a lot about that being a priority to address that, and that's something you can bring. Is that something just adding someone like you can fix alone? Is that something where everyone needs to be working in the off season, or just the spacing will be better? How can Atlanta address that one area?
I think there's a lot that goes into that. I think the way your offense is set up. Last year, Atlanta was a team that they're going to drive it down your throats. So shooting the three was an afterthought. I think if you have a system where a coach is encouraging you to shoot, also if a coach is encouraging you to shoot while you're still missing. So a lot of times if you're shooting the ball and you're thinking oh, I better make this or I'm in trouble, or oh, I better make this or I'm coming out, that's typically not the shots to go in. So since Coach Nikki is actually addressing that she wants to be a better 3-point shooting team, I think more shots go in, obviously, when you have a green light.
And just kind of wrapping up here, like we said, we think Atlanta can really surprise people. What do you kind of see as the ceiling of this team now that a lot of free agents have moved and some pieces have changed, and obviously Angel coming back? What's the ceiling of Atlanta?
man, the ceiling is the roof, huh? Isn't that the same? But no, I really, it's interesting because there's so many, we haven't seen anything yet. We just know that there's a roster in place and that it's a talented roster. I've never been on a team where I assume that we're not going to be good. So I always feel like, with the right focus and mental attributes that we can be there. So yeah, I think I'm excited. Like I said, I don't want to make any bold predictions. You heard it here first, but I do think I do think we're going to be good. But I mean, I would be crazy to be on a team and not think that. So I do think that we have. I mean, our potential's through the roof. Seriously, we just have to put it together.
I'm kind of curious. I'm looking at the new Atlanta roster, as we're calling it. And by the way, I got to give a shout out to Nike because I saw the warm up outfits for this season. And Nike's taken the jerseys and the apparel to the next level, so I'm very excited to see that. That blue is going to look real good.
Can't wait.
Right. So looking at the roster, you and Angel are by far the most veteran players on this team. So I'm kind of curious. Coming from a Minnesota Lynx team, a veteran savvy team that kind of had very specific roles for each person on the team, and I think in some ways you were kind of, at least from the videos and from talking to some people, you were kind of that bright side to a very slightly serious team in some ways. What do you see? Do you see you taking on a similar role with this team as a leader, or are you going to have to kind of be the more I don't want to say mature, but the more mature veteran because of your years in the league?
It's actually a really good question. It's an easy answer for me, though. I'm always going to be, so I feel like you can be both. There's a time to be serious, and there's a time that you can't ever be too serious, or, the season is long, the season gets hard, and if you just kind of let the season wear on you, I think, it just never ends well. So I think that a lot of times you guys do see, there's times when I'm serious and mad, too. Obviously, if like a team goes on a something overrun, we're not laughing. But I think that, you can be mature and still be a bright spot. I think it actually will help loosen up the young people in a sense that if it's a big situation, a playoff game, they're nervous. I know, and I've been there, but I still can be nervous. But just to say something to kind of lighten the mood in that aspect, that's how I can see myself being like a leader on the team, but also being a bright spot. Like, everybody's nervous, like, okay, everybody calm down. But that's kind of, that's just kind of my personality type, so I can't change that. But it is crazy that now I went from being like, the middle, bottom, younger to now like I'm one of the older on the team. So that is an interesting switch. And I told Coach Nikki that I'm not going to be used to doing so much drill work all day, every day. But I told her it's going to be a necessary evil, I guess, because
Well, I mean, you might have to you might get hazed as the old person now.
I don't never. What does that even mean? Haze is the old person. I don't even know. That's an oxymoron. I don't know what that is.
Well, you're young at heart. I saw you celebrated the Jewish holiday of Purim, and you had a great costume for it. So I know you'll bring some joy. You'll bring some joy to Atlanta also. I am kind of curious. Something we've talked about a lot is you being, and don't blush too much, the biggest free agent signing of this free agency period. So you went from the defending championship team. You were a player who, and we kind of touched on this, you were a player who the starting point guard went down with an injury in Lindsey Whalen. And you stepped up. I mean, you were a key clog in that whomping you put on Indiana that one game. You were a key reason they were able to win. So now that the Lynx lose you, kind of in a league sense, who in your mind is the favorite?
Oh my gosh. No, the favorite to what?
To win it all, because I think it's a general consensus that the argument is, it's the Lynx and the Sparks are the two teams, they've been back to back and whatnot. I mean, I think very easily you could argue that Connecticut's up there, but how do you think your leaving the defending champions, I guess, affects the power rankings of the league?
So I think it's interesting because we had a crazy season, even though it didn't seem like it. But I honestly think when you play with players, you see how great they are. And I mean, the Minnesota Lynx starting five gets older every year, and I am amazed. Like every day in practice, the stuff they do, like a Simone Augustus who like, okay, you make her mad and she might score 10 points straight. So I played with them for, those 3 years, and just to see what those starters do on a daily basis at practice. I know me leaving is a blow, but I think the Minnesota Lynx are going to be just fine. I think, and they reloaded on the bench. So like I said, I wish them nothing but the best, but I practice with those players every day. So just, it's hard to bet against them. And I'm not saying they're going to win it all, but I'm just saying me leaving them. They're probably like, oh, darn it, but those starters, as long as you have that nucleus right there, you can add other players to them. And I think that they're always going to be a good team. And I'm not making any predictions about this.
All right.
About this
Fair enough.
thing, because that's a sticky situation you try to put me in there.
Fair enough. We'll end with this question. You've been generous with your time. We really appreciate it. Have to ask, and maybe, I don't know how much you've watched because you've been busy with your overseas commitments, but, there's a big splash yesterday with Stevens of UConn announcing she's entering the draft. To whatever extent you've seen her play, can you give us your scouting report? Because she's just, for media, she's throwing our mock drafts into the trash, and we got to reevaluate everything.
Oh, well, see, now that's one I can't do. I like to, when talking about young players being drafted into the WNBA, a lot of times you can see these players, they can run, they can jump, they can shoot. And then everybody's so puzzled when they maybe don't excel in the WNBA. The fact that she's coming from UConn, that there's no secret that like the UConn players have been, prepped and are ready to play in the WNBA system. And I think it's more the mental aspect. So I'm going to just say, knowing that she was coached by Coach Ariema, I would say that knowing that she was in the she's going to do well, because I think basketball is a mental game. When you get to the situations where, like this season, we're playing a game almost every other day. A lot of times you have to depend on your mentals. Your legs might be tired. You have to be able to outthink your opponent. So in that aspect, I'm sure she'll be fine.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Again, guys, I'm R.A. Schwartz along with Eli Horowitz, and this has been the WNBA Insider Show. Each week, we cover various topics in the league, bringing honest and critical analysis. We want to give a huge thank you to our special guest, all-star and champion, Renee Montgomery.
Oh, thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.